My advice to my high school self would probably be that the best years of your life, you don't even know what's in store for you. There are great things ahead and a lot to look forward to.
First, I'd like to say sitting in front of a group of high school students is way more intimidating than being on TV, so bear with me. I'm gonna now bring in our incredible panel. First, we have Qiava Martinez, who is in her 15th year with the Las Vegas Raiders. Get some applause. Let's go. Qiava is a Senior Vice President and Chief Sales Officer, leading sales and customer retention for the team in Allegiant Stadium. From an inside sales ticket representative in 2008 to her current leadership role, she has been instrumental in the relocation of the Raiders. All right. Thank you. We have Lauren Whitaker. Want to come out? All right. Let's go. Lauren is a seasoned digital creator, gaining recognition in 2020 for her Madden game streams. With a football passion, she worked digitally for the Dallas Cowboys, the Cleveland Browns, the Jacksonville Jaguars, advocating for women in Madden and football. Let's hear it for Lauren. All right. You guys met our next panelist, Noel Painter. Come on out, Noel. Who is a senior product marketing manager for the Xbox Game Pass team, a Harvard University alumna where she played D1 field hockey and club lacrosse. She is an avid gamer who has blended her passions into a career at Xbox. And finally, our last panelist, Katie Sowers. Come on out. Katie was an NFL assistant coach from 2016 through 2021 and made history as the first woman to coach in a Super Bowl in 2020. That's awesome. Recently named, this is very cool, the head coach of Italy's national women's flag football team. She continues to break barriers and inspire in the world of football. Let's give it up for the panel. So I'm going to start with a question for Katie. As I said earlier, you broke barriers. You're someone that I've looked up to, a lot of people in the industry have looked up to because you're the first in a lot of ways. I'm going to ask you a question I'm sure that you get a lot, which is, when did it click for you that your passion for football could actually become a profession?
Yeah, so how many of you guys have seen The Little Giants? Anyone? I cannot believe this. Oh my God, yeah. Please go, your homework for school is that you have to watch The Little Giants. You have to. That movie is the reason I started to love football. But it was not until I actually saw Becky Hammon coaching in the NBA that I realized that if she can coach in the NBA, why couldn't I coach in the NFL? And I'd been playing tackle football for 9 years. Never once crossed my mind that I could coach. So that really sparked my interest, but it was, you know, my twin sister and I would put on helmet pads, go in the backyard, hit each other. It was just a normal day for us.
Well, how did you get into the sport in the first place?
So after our backyard football got done, I remember I got hit by one of the guys when we were playing. We were about 8th grade, and I remember thinking, their bodies are getting bigger, and that hurt. And so at that time, I thought football ended for me. And it wasn't until I took a victory lap in college. Some of you might know what a victory lap is soon. You have to finish up your credits. So I had to finish up some credits. I was done with my basketball career, and I was trying to figure out what's next. As an athlete, you lose your identity when sports end. And I found a tackle football team in Michigan, Kalamazoo, Michigan. And I mean, that's where I fell in love all over again with the game of football.
For women who are looking to break into football coaching, working on the football side of things, and there's still not that many, what is the #1 piece of advice that you would give?
I would say is, first of all, networking. I know that the higher you want to climb, the more you're going to rely on the connections that you make. And I don't think that there's anybody probably on this panel that can say that they didn't have some connection that opened the door, right? There's always going to be connection. But also, and this is not just for young women, but believe in yourself, right? And this idea of having confidence.
We are seeing more women work in sports and football on the business side of things. You know, I mentioned there's still growing numbers, but small numbers on the football side. But on your side, I think the numbers are continuing to rise, as well as in gaming and streaming, which we'll talk about, which is very cool. But it comes with challenges, being, you know, one of the few women to do what you do, as long as you've done it. I was wondering if you could speak to some of the most difficult challenges you faced as a female senior leader in what has typically been a male-dominated industry.
Well, you're absolutely right in regards to the number of women that needs to grow, especially, I'm going to talk about myself for a minute, being a black woman in the sport. So knowing the importance that that brings and trying to bring others along with me. So I come from a family of 7 boys. So I have 7 brothers and 1 sister. All of my brothers played sports. My brother is actually a coach right now for the 49ers. We won't talk about that, but
Really?
So he's coaching in the Super Bowl. Wow. But I say that to say, and I'll go into challenges, 7 brothers, 1 sister, they all played sports. I wasn't really a great athlete, but I was the first one who made it to the NFL. So take that. Take that. So I would say the biggest challenge that I faced as I continued to climb the ladder was not any individual, it was myself. The challenge of myself and that voice that was in my head that you shouldn't be here, you don't belong, somebody's smarter than you, someone's faster than you, someone can do it better than you. Once I was able to get that voice out of my head and know that I do deserve to be here, and if I'm not invited to the table, I'll make my own table, I'll bring my own chairs, all of that. If anyone can hear me out there and you take that, don't let yourself stop you from your dreams. Just keep going. No one can stop you. Just keep going.
I mentioned earlier, you've been with the Raiders for a long time.
Yeah, 15 years.
15 years.
Yes.
And I know I just said, well, there's more women than ever, sort of patly, but I was wondering if you could speak to that. In 2008 versus now, what is the difference? And I'm not just talking about women, I'm talking about all sorts of the different people you're seeing in these offices.
Look, I came here from Oakland. When the team was in Oakland, I made the transition here to Las Vegas, and I actually love it here. But in 2008, yes, I would be the only one in rooms, but I had such a great team in Oakland, and the team now is just as great. But for me to have the honor of working with the first black female president in the NFL, in Sandra Douglas Morgan, that has been something that I thought I would never see. And I'm able to see it today, and the organization has thrived under her leadership. And so I know she won't be the last. There will be more women in that position as well, because now, again, that confidence in women seeing someone that looks like them, and for young girls to also see that they can do the same thing.
That's awesome. Noel, we're seeing big brands, some of the ones represented here, Nike, Coca-Cola, Ally Bank, of course, Microsoft, dramatically increasing the media dollars they're spending in women's sports, some committing to an equal spend on both men and women's sports. I was wondering if you just talk about why that is. Why is that happening? What is the importance there? What is the draw of women's sports for these gigantic companies?
That's a great question. I think going back to something that was mentioned earlier, representation really matters. It's so important to see women who look like you, who are you, working in industries like sports, gaming, making content. And when you see companies and you have partners like Microsoft's and the Nikes of the world start to invest, media spend, they have a huge global footprint, and you're starting to make these types of investments, and they're equal across men and women's sports. That says so much, and it elevates the conversation. It elevates this conversation of equal opportunities, closing gaps, equality. So I think that that's a huge, that's one of the huge reasons why this is happening, and I think it's so important to continue. There's so much talent in the world right now that is untapped, that the continued investments that we're going to see is going to really just elevate more women and help elevate more women into these positions. As you see more and you think, hey, I believe I can do this. Nothing is going to stop me, as you said. I'm going to go and do this because I really want to coach in the NFL. I really want to make a really great video game. So I think that it speaks to that.
In your industry, what is female representation like? I genuinely don't know.
So it is still male-dominated. Gaming in general is male-dominated, but it is getting much better in terms of equal representation and opportunities. For esports industry, for example, it is still 95% of esports athletes are male, 5% are women, so we're not to equal representation yet, but it's growing. There's a great example, Evil Geniuses, they're an esports organization. Their head coach for Valorant is a woman, Potter. And they won the largest world championship for Valorant this past year.
Wow.
And she's there, and you see that. I didn't know that I don't follow Valorant. I now do, because I was so excited to see her representing us on the biggest stage in the world for this game. And she also won Esports Coach of the Year at the Game Awards. That's a huge stepping stone for esports in general and the low representation that we see. But it's getting better. It's growing every year.
That's a good transition to Lauren, talking about women in gaming. So amongst those who own Madden 2021 and or 2022, 25% identified as female. I imagine that's a number that has grown over the years you've seen grow since you've played. But for young women who want to get into gaming more seriously, streaming like you do, what would be your biggest piece of advice?
I think the biggest piece of advice that I could give is surround yourself with positivity. Much like what Katie said, networking is definitely huge within the gaming space. Being a female Madden player, it can be, speaking from personal experience, it was definitely rough in the very beginning when my community was very small. I would get very, very nasty people that would come into my chat saying things like, girls don't belong with football, and some even more harsher things. But I kept at it, right? Like I kept playing. My community started to grow even bigger than what it was, obviously when I first started. And I knew that it was going to be a challenge, but at the same time, I knew I loved Madden, right? Like I knew that I loved this game. And in a lot of ways, Madden helped me understand the game of football, right? Not to say that coaches would do the exact same thing that I would do in Madden, but it was just kind of cool to see the similarities, on Sundays based off of, what I or my friends might have been doing in the game of Madden. So just really surround yourself with positive people. If you are able to find other female Madden creators, definitely reach out to them. You guys are in it together. Madden is, for the most part, the fellas are always going to hold it down. The fellas are always going to be there. And the more that we can get women into the game, we just want to play. Surround yourself with positive vibes, positive people that are going to support you, and people that want to be there, just for you.
I appreciate that. I have a question for all of you. I asked you about, a couple of you, about the challenges of being a woman in a male-dominated industry. I would say that's probably the first question I get always on panels like this. What is the challenges? What is it like, with dudes yelling at you on the internet every day? What is the sexism you encounter? What is the resistance? And those are important questions to answer, and I think it's important for people to hear those answers. But I have a slightly different question, which is, what are the benefits? I always tell people, there's definitely challenges, don't get me wrong, and there are tools you have to develop to deal with it, especially the internet aspect of it, which no one's really built for. But I also feel like being unique, having a different background, having a different point of view, has given me advantages
And I'm not talking about advantages in the traditional way. I mean advantages in ways maybe people don't think about because I see things differently. So I was wondering if you could all speak to the advantages of being different in your industry, of being one of the few women in what we've all, I think, to a person, we have all said are male-dominated industries, starting with you, Katie.
One of the biggest things for me is when you enter into a male-dominated field, there's this idea that men know something until they prove they don't, whereas women don't know something until they prove they do. I just wanted to throw that out there for both men and women to hear because it's important to have that understanding. But then also the benefit, I see the world differently, like you said. How many times I used to walk through a toy store and there was a boy aisle and a girl aisle, and in my opinion, all the cool toys were on the boy aisle, the Legos, all the Barbies were on the girl aisle. And if you think of that in terms of life, if you're limiting yourself to one aisle, how many opportunities are you missing out on? And so by being different, kind of making your own path, you're creating more opportunities for yourself and for the people around you.
Within gaming, I think the thing I think about that I love doing within the spaces that I find myself is starting the conversations with my allies, with the men in the room, and informing them of things that I personally have gone through in tech, within playing like esports and playing online, and some of the things that you'd mentioned. I think I've also experienced verbatim that as well, so that they start to understand, not to sympathize, but also like they can start being more of a vocal ally in the room. And having this background and being different, it's great to start those conversations and to create more allies and to host these types of panels and to have conversations and to create resources. So that's something that I think is a big advantage and really great within these industries to bring.
One of the things that really just kind of opened my eyes really within the past couple of months is just realizing that what I am doing and the platform that I have created is way bigger than me, right? It is so much bigger than me. And one of the things that I like to say as well is that my community, it's for everybody. My community is literally for everybody, but it is especially for girls that feel like they don't have a place, that feel like, they are afraid that if they start streaming and they start playing Madden, that they're going to get ridiculed and that they're going to be made fun of. And I feel like my space is no, you're not. No, you're not. I mean, granted, you are going to come across some really nasty people, but it more than anything says a lot about them than it does about you. There are a lot more nice people in the world than there are nasty people in the world, and you just got to find them. More than anything, they find you because of who you are and what you represent.
That was good. That was good. I would say for me, the benefit is I get to work for the Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, the Raiders have stood on diversity and inclusion with Al Davis. So Al Davis, before Mark Davis took over the team, he owned the team. And I'm going to tell you guys a quick story. Back in the 50s and 60s, he would not play in the South where there was segregation if the team couldn't stay together. And that's the foundation of the Raiders. And to be able to work with my colleagues that are all different and all passionate and we all love what we do, sometimes we see each other more than we see our own families. That love and that passion to make sure that we're doing the right thing, right? Doing the right thing for the season ticket members, for the Raider fans, on and off the field. Do we have any Raider fans in the house?
I heard AP.
Okay.
I heard a couple APs, so some people know.
Okay. Did I just open up a can of worms? Okay, thank you for that. So, as I was saying, the Raiders, we stand on that. And so that's what's special about the organization and the things that we do in the community. And it's just amazing. It's a privilege. So, again, we stand on diversity and inclusion, and that's why I love being at the Raiders.
We've been talking about, being women in male-dominated industries, the benefits of that, the challenges. But a question that I get a lot, and a lot of you guys here in the audience today are men, is what can we do to make you feel included? And I'll just speak quickly from my own experience. Most of the shows I'm on, really all of them, the other analysts are men. They're usually former players. And whenever I talk about my own journey, I often tell people that I wouldn't be where I am without the friendships I've built with these guys. The way that they've supported me behind the scenes, the conversations we have about football, and then on air, the way they sell me to our viewers. They've been incredible allies to me. It's been such a big part of my journey. I imagine a lot of you guys have similar stories with colleagues, friends, coaches, people you've met along the ways. So I was wondering, for the benefit of a lot of the guys in the audience here, whether it's sharing a story or a piece of advice you give on being an ally, on the other side of things in this industry, I would love to hear that side from you as well. Maybe starting with Katie again.
When it comes to supporting any type of marginalized group, it's important to first understand that we all have unconscious bias, right? So it doesn't matter who you are, where you came from. We all have these stereotypes that we need to be aware of. So whether you're man, woman, black, white, you have this preconceived idea that society has built. And the more aware we are of those unconscious things that go through our mind, the better allies we can be. So whether it be, if you address a male coach as coach, do you address the female coach as coach? Little things that you might not even think about every day will make someone feel welcome or make them feel like they don't belong. And that's gonna be across the board. It's not just for women, it's not just for men. This is just who we are as a world in a society of stereotypes.
For myself, I had a great manager at Microsoft who I was a couple of years in. I really wanted to get into Xbox in gaming, and I didn't know really how to go about it. I play a lot of video games, but I wasn't quite sure how to get into this industry that you see is very male dominated, and I didn't have the background. So candidly, I was very unsure of myself and not really confident in my own qualities. And I just distinctly remember talking to him about hey, I really want to do this. How can I? And he was so unbelievably encouraging, pointing out, hey, here are your qualities that I see in you after working with you every day for 3 years. And then also encouraging me to just reach out to people who work within Xbox, men and women, and literally ask them, hey, I'm interested in working in this industry. I have no prior experience, but I would love to learn more. And that gave me the confidence to actually start cold calling people and really start saying hey, I'm knocking on the door because I want to work in Xbox. It took me 7 years, so it wasn't immediate. It took a while. However, it was really that conversation with Brian that was that sparked this hey, I can do this. I can have these conversations. And then eventually I started to work in, there's women's groups within Microsoft. They're called employee resource groups or communities where they help. It's diversity and inclusion, creating more opportunities for this one particular for women within Microsoft. And I started to do work for this group because of this conversation. And I eventually led this 3,000 person community for 2 years. So it was this one conversation with this one manager 5-6 years ago that sparked this career path journey and then also this other work that I've been doing within Microsoft. And I'm so grateful for that conversation every day.
That's great.
I think for me with my, yeah, that was awesome.
Thank you.
I think for me in my experience, I think sometimes sort of the misunderstanding and misconception is that I'm going to take something away from them by virtue of me being there. I'm going to, they are, it's like they have to keep it they have to keep the door closed. And for me, I just want to be a part of what's going on. Like, you know, much like Katie, when you go to the toy aisle, I mean, granted, I played with Barbies, but I had way more fun with the video games. I had way more fun with the Game Boys and the Super Nintendos than I did with Barbie. It's just always just wanting to be a part of, you know, the cool thing that's going on. And for me, it was video games. One of the stories I like to tell is I actually had a viewer come into my chat and they saw that I was winning an online head-to-head game. And he said in the chat, I would stop playing Madden or I would quit Madden if I ever lost to a girl. That's what he said in my chat. And I said, well, how do you know that you haven't continuously been losing to girls already? I mean, last time I checked, you can't really see the profile picture of the person that you're playing, and if it's actually a truthful profile picture. And his response was, well, I rarely lose. And so my answer to that was, great, I'm gonna see you on MCS, I'm gonna see you in competitive Madden, and you're just gonna blow them all away. And then his tune kind of changed a little bit, and then he said, you know what, I think I've been a little bit unfair. You know, that was totally wrong for me to say. And since then, like, he's chill, like he's a community member, like, you know, he's really awesome. And it's just, again, for me, it's not, I'm not trying to take anything away. I'm just trying to be a part of what's going on. I just want to chill and hang out and play football and play video games and just know that I'm not, you know, it's just more so of an inclusion thing and not a threat thing.
I have nothing else to add after that. That was really good. I mean, the only other thing I would add is just being a support. Again, like I mentioned earlier, I come from a family full of boys, 7 brothers, my father, who is one of my biggest role models. And again, you know, I was playing with G.I. Joe, right? So I'm building forts out in the backyard. So everyone has their own journey, but for the guys in the audience, I would just say continue to be a support. And like it was mentioned earlier about the unconscious bias, just make sure that you're treating everyone the same, right? Don't single someone out because you think they're less than. So if you follow that path, I think it will continue to help this world grow.
Yeah, that's great. We have some questions from students, and I'm going to read some of them. Emily asks about negativity. How did you overcome negativity?
There's a quote, and it states, once she remembered who she was, the game changed. And so that's the quote that I have in my home office. You know, there's going to be long journeys. The older you get, the more things you go through. But for me, the way that I'm able to deal with it, like I mentioned earlier, it's more of the self-doubt, is remembering who you are, or remembering what you're here for and what your purpose is, to be a leader, not a follower, right? So again, that's the thing that drives me, remembering who I am and what my purpose is, and all of the negativity that comes into my ear can go out the other.
I love this question because when I deal with negativity and I deal with trolls, like if I'm on stream or in social media or whatever the case may be, I know that it has absolutely nothing to do with me.
Yes.
It has absolutely nothing to do with me. It is absolutely on that person, and it kind of makes me sad a little bit because I just want to reach out to that person and say, you know what, whatever it is that you're dealing with, it can get addressed. Yeah. It can get addressed, you know, and once you start taking those steps to address whatever it is that you're dealing with, then you'll start to feel better about life. You'll start to feel better about yourself, you know, much like what you said as far as knowing who you are. Like, I know who I am. Mm-hmm. I don't have anything to prove to anybody.
That's right.
You're gonna take me as I am, or I'm not. I'm not gonna, you know, lose sleep and, you know, cry in the shower because you said I was ugly and black girls don't need to play football. Like, that's a you thing, you know, and I wish them all the best. And I just know that when it comes to trolls and negativity, it's not about me. It was never about me. And I just keep it pushing.
100%. It's great advice.
That's good.
So that was great. I love that. I think something that I say to myself, particularly when it's self-doubt or self-negativity, because it happens, is I can and I will. I just repeat that to myself because I want to remind myself about where I'm going and what I'm trying to do. And I just try to remember where I want to go, both in my career and in my life, when I'm doubting myself. I also try, and you mentioned this earlier, surrounding yourself with positive people is so incredibly important. And having a group of friends, I have a great group of friends who are so supportive when it comes to playing video games. And it is so fun to play with them because it's just all fun. There's no negativity, there's no toxicity. It just reminds me that there's so many good people out there, and I love the positive interactions that come out of that, and to focus on that if anything negative is happening from an external perspective.
Yeah, and just to add, we live in this social media world of highlight reels, and I want every single one of you that gets on Instagram, that gets on TikTok, whatever, you have to remember the battles that you face when you're internalizing everything that you're feeling about how you feel about yourself, how you feel about your friends. When you look at all those stories on Instagram, those are highlight reels. And I want to remind you, highlight reels. The battles that you face are the same battles that the person next to you is facing. It might be different battles, but you guys are all in battles. And so the confidence of these comments that happen, or someone saying something, the less we can feed into those comments, good and bad. I remember Kyle Shanahan talking before the Super Bowl, and he said, as you're getting ready for the Super Bowl, you're gonna feel like you're on a roller coaster. When you have a great game, you're gonna feel on top of the world. If you drop a ball, you're gonna feel like you're bottom of the barrel. You can't listen to either one of them. If you make how good you feel, if that's dependent on someone else telling you that, then you're in for a long ride. So it goes both ways. Do you listen to the good comments? Do you listen to the bad comments? No, you listen to the people that love you and know you.
It's such great advice about knowing that it's not about you. And I'll say this, as someone who, if I'm being called a diversity hire, it's a day that ends with Y. But if I click on the name of the person who's doing it, 99% of the time, they're sending that to 100 other people, and it's just spewing, and it truly has nothing, it's not even about me. But something that I have figured out when people ask me about how do you deal with that is exactly what Katie said, which is actually figuring out the advice and criticism and feedback and compliments of the people whose opinions you truly value, right? That statement, don't take criticism from someone you wouldn't take advice. It's so unbelievably true, regardless of your identity. So I really like hearing that from you. I think it's great advice. Also, set your filters so you can't see it, if you can't deal with it, because I do that. Desire asks, if you could give one piece of advice to yourself in high school, I'll go first. You don't have to know what you're gonna do with the rest of your life. When I was in high school, I'm just being here and kind of walking around thinking, I thought I was gonna be a writer, and then I thought I was gonna be a business writer, and then I thought I was gonna be, I never thought I would work in football, never thought, I tried a million different things, I sucked at a million different things, I didn't think I would be a person on TV talking about football because nobody who looked like me did it. So it's okay to not know, not just what you're gonna be when you're our age, but what you're gonna study in college or beyond. It's all right. Your journey is going to take some very unexpected turns, and I wish I had known that because I was so stressed out when I was your age, thinking I had to have it all figured out. Katie, let's start with you.
My advice to my high school self would probably be that it's not as bad as you think it is, and the best years are yet to come. I know that there are probably a lot of people in here who are suffering with silent battles, and some days might feel hard to wake up. But I'm telling you, if you push through that, the best years of your life, you don't even know what's in store for you. There are great things ahead and a lot to look forward to.
My advice, it's actually the same that what you said. It's okay not to know what you're going to do. And I would add on to that, it is okay to change your mind and go into different careers later in life. You do not have to join and do something in your 20s, even in your 30s, you can make shifts. And that is something that I learned I didn't know was a possibility. And I think you can make so many shifts and changes depending on what you're interested in and what you're passionate about. What you said, you work a lot of your life, so being really passionate about it is really important to help you get up and to do what you do and do what you love. So that would be my advice to myself.
But it is so true. Like, you don't have to have all of the answers right now. You don't have to know exactly what it is that you want to do. And it really wasn't until my junior year of college where I knew exactly where it was that what I wanted to do and where it was that I wanted to go. I've had some peaks and I've had some valleys, but I'm still here, Like, I've considered you define your own success, and I consider myself to be successful.
For me, what I would say to my high school self would be mistakes or opportunities. The mistakes that I went through in high school turned into opportunities that led me to where I am today. Don't get too down on yourself. Your journey might be different from someone else. The path that you go may be different from someone else, but mistakes can turn into opportunities.
I like that. That's good. Well, you guys are amazing. You have some of the coolest jobs that exist, and you are all incredibly unique and impressive in doing those jobs. So let's give a round of applause for the panel.